Futures now, old man.
What it do? Jose and Jmac here with you for the week 13 debrief. What's going on, dude? How was your week?
It was all right, man. Pretty good. Clinching a lot of first round buys here. Getting really into the heart of it. It's coming down to the wire here. Got a couple leagues kind of trying to scrape in, get as high as a seed. Now it's time to play that game of who are you playing in the playoffs? What do you think your actual chances are? That sort of thing, man. How about you?
It was up and down. I had a couple leagues that I really wanted to win in where I didn't. And then the leagues where I felt pretty safe in, it just kind of continued along, getting it done. But yeah, there are some leagues where it's coming down to the wire, and it's going to take me winning this next week to kind of get into it. But yeah, I mean, overall, I'm kind of sad, man. I talked about this a little bit on the Survivor League. I was telling you how I was going to just pick on the Jets. Well, that didn't work this past week. The Falcons could not pull it out, man. It was, and I was watching that too, and it was so brutal to watch it unfold because I'm just like, what is happening? This is the weirdest ending to a game. The Falcons just can't do anything, and despite the Jets trying to step on their own foot, the they just couldn't get it. They got it done barely and got him into overtime and kicked the field goal, and it was so sad.
Yeah, man. I don't know what the Falcons or who the Falcons are, right, in terms of what their defense is. Now with Kirk Cousins, it's just one of those things that it's like, I don't know. Do they even bring Drake London back? Right? Like we've had a lot of talk about like players that are hurt. The same thing with Garrett Wilson. Like, are these guys coming back for the rest of the season, or is it looking like a lost season? Like what are they kind of thinking? But yeah, man, that was one of those crazy games. You also had in terms of NFL upsets. You had the Panthers beating the Rams, which was kind of wild.
Hey,
Um,
I'm all for it. NFC West, man, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, where do you want to start? You want to start with some of the players there? Or you want to hit the big injury, I guess that kind of happened over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was just Amon-Ra St. Brown. Hopefully, we get some good updates here. Then he'll be back. But and then there was Tyrone Tracy too, where it brings up an interesting point of if Devin Singletary is on waivers, do you go scoop him up even though they have a bye week coming up here? It's kind of I have a roster where I got a spot to play and I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna pick up Devin Singletary just because I don't want somebody else to get him. I won't even use him probably, but yeah, I can't let that guy go for. I gotta price check him.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the Amon-Ra thing, it seems like it's going to be one of those tweaked ankles. It's probably going to be the one game or three games. It looks like for hopefully most of you guys that have him, it's only going to be that one game against the Cowboys coming up, and then he'll be ready for the fantasy playoffs. We talked about it a bit, with a Jameson Williams pop off.
Yeah.
In terms of top performers, you had. A couple guys that we kind of not necessarily top performers, but guys we were kind of missing, right? That came back. Bucky finally came back. Brian Thomas came back. That was not nearly as successful, but it looked like the Bucks offense worked a lot better when Bucky Irving came back. I know for our specifically where we're trying to tank, that's not great news there for Bucky to come back and do what he's looking like. Kind of he's just jumping back into the role. I think that completely kills anybody else in that backfield. Sean Tucker, Rashad White, kind of just back into the ether. They're not pretty much relevant anymore. But it was good to see Bucky back. I think the Buccaneers definitely needed him.
Yeah, and it's good to see him be back and look like himself. Because, I mean, there was some concern there with how much time he missed and with just kind of like the writing on the wall and what the tea leaves were saying when what we had to read between the lines. It just felt ominous. And it was good to kind of get that confirmation or, reassurance that he is who he used to be and will be going forward. I guess it still remains to be seen whether they're going to try and be a little more cautious with his usage going forward. But if he gets what he was doing earlier this season, you got to feel great about that. And as far as our team goes, I mean, hey man, it is what it is. I think with this happening, I think it just kind of reinforces that the theory that we had, where I think Bucky Irving will have that offseason hype over Breece Hall, and kind of those values are going to start to diverge as Bucky Irving only goes up and Breece Hall is only going to go down. So, but yeah, and then I mean, there were some really awesome catches this weekend, man. I don't know if you saw Puka's catch.
Oh yeah, 100%. That
Dude.
was using the defender one-handed. That was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I know, right? It reminded me of, I think was it last year, or I think it was this year in college football. It was like week 1, week 2, there's a defender who goes up and snags it almost the exact same way, kind of like back turned, reaching back, one-handing it in the air like that. But yeah, it was really cool to watch him like catch it with the defender and then just yank it in and pull it in. Yeah, I mean, that was awesome. Brock Bowers, I don't know if you saw that one though. That one was wild.
Yeah, I mean, he was like what, like an inch off the ground. He pretty much fingertips snags it. Yeah, I mean, Brock Bowers being good for fantasy is kind of incredible based on everything that's going on with the Raiders and Geno Smith's quarterback play. It's pretty incredible. He seems to be getting healthy. So kind of like Bucky, like if you were able to survive the injuries in the middle of the season with Bucky, Bowers, those sorts of guys, they're the type of guys now that if you can make it into the playoffs as the 5, the 6, the 4 seed, whatever, you might be looking at, a good way to upset in that first round and make a run at the championship. Because I mean, those guys are going to be core. They were, drafted as core players, and they're starting to perform, now coming back from their injuries. So, and yeah, there was one more, right? I think Treylon Burks had almost like a Odell Beckham style, like catch. I think I saw Odell's tweet about it because I think he was wearing the same number that Odell had when he made the catch with the Giants. It was a wild, like jumping backwards, one-handed. It was pretty impressive. I mean, that's the most impressive thing we've seen out of Treylon Burks' entire career. I don't know if he had another catch that game, but that was another game where like the Commanders were almost right there to beat the Broncos. It looks like Jaden Daniels is going to come back, so I think for that entire offense, it's a big boost. Terry McLaurin looked pretty good as well, just kind of segueing off of like what that game looked like. But yeah, man, I mean, it was a good time for highlight real catches.
Yeah, Treylon Burks. That's the second most impressive thing he's done. He actually made it through a game where he didn't get injured. Is probably the the most impressive thing. Yeah, I mean, and Mariota looked pretty good out there. I don't know if you caught that, but Chris Collinsworth, dude, what was that?
Who knows, man. Chris Collinsworth is just living, off that great deal he signed however many years ago. And, I mean, he's just out there doing his thing, man. Like, who knows? He has like several of those a game at this point. It's kind of like you're just hoping. I don't know if you caught the slip. I mean, probably not something we want to talk too much. I think it was Greg Olson where it was a player and what he said, and he instantly caught what he said. I don't know if you caught it, but
No,
it was
didn't.
wild. It was wild, but it almost sounded like he said. He even like chuckled where he was like, "Oof!" Like that was almost a horrific slip. But yeah, man. I mean, some of these commentators is just like, wow, is there really nobody like better we can get out there to do this job?
Yeah, speaking of nobody better out there to get to do this job, Max Brosmer, I think is that who it is? What's his name?
Let's pretend he doesn't exist.
He's
Let's
not.
just
He is
erase
not
him
it.
from our memory, please, because that was wow.
Yeah, man. We didn't think it could get worse for Justin Jefferson, but it absolutely got worse for Justin Jefferson and the Vikings in general. And it was sad too because they played a great defensive game against the Seahawks and really, probably would have stifled them for a lot more if their offense could have, stayed on the field and put a drive together. But yeah, I mean, man, Minnesota's they're deep in the woes here, and our only hope is for 9 to actually show up and maybe get to 10. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like kindergarten. He's got to learn to count. I don't know, man. It's brutal. I think Aaron Jones also got hurt again this game, a
Yeah.
shoulder, I think again. So he was looking like he might be, pretty competent going down the stretch, but his injury woes continue. Jordan Mason looked okay, but I mean, if the offense is just this awful, Mason is pretty much not somebody you want to be starting. I don't know what you do with Justin Jefferson. It's like, can you bench him? It's kind of like also like in the Lamar situation, it's like, can these guys that have been so good for fantasy for so long that are so good at football, can you really bench them going into the playoffs? Like it's such a hard decision, but I think it is one of those that, like, if you have the stones and obviously the caliber of player to replace him with, like, I'm not saying, you bench Justin Jefferson to start Wan'Dale Robinson, but like, there might be teams out there that, they drafted around Jefferson and maybe they picked up a waiver player that's, doing a lot better in Lamar's situation. Maybe you got Jacoby Brissett to fill in for Lamar while he was hurt or on a bye week or something. Like, are you starting Jacoby Brissett or Lamar Jackson in your playoffs? Like, it feels like that's the type of move that everything stats wise is telling you got to do, but it feels so incredibly impossible to really bench one of those guys. But they're actively hurting your team, right? Like if you're starting Lamar Jackson week in and week out for the last like 3-4 weeks since he came back from his injury, you're you probably lost because he hasn't, I don't think, scored more than 10 fantasy points in the last 3 to 4 games. Like he just does not look like himself. So I don't know, man. It's like, it's really difficult, but even JJ McCarthy coming back, I think Kevin O'Connell maybe liked how his own farts smelled too much here or something, because he really bought into this quarterback whisper, and it just doesn't seem like JJ McCarthy's a viable option. Like you hope that next summer in the offseason they do something to address it. I don't know if they'll move on fully from McCarthy, but you hope that they have, a Jameis Winston, a Joe Flacco, like some sort of reliable backup to put in there in case, the JJ McCarthy experience, comes, as the Germans say, 9, like it's over, it comes, stops, it ends here. But yeah, man, I don't know. Would you have the cojones to bench Lamar or Justin Jefferson into the playoffs, or this week, winner get in, losing, you're out of the playoffs, and bench one of those guys?
I'm trying to think here because I pulled up my roster here for the Megala Bowl because I have Justin Jefferson on that team. And this is the league where I traded a Mecca Egbuka for a Justin Jefferson. Now, when you go back and look at that trade, it's just, it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Both of them are pretty trash right now. But I mean, I have Puka, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, and Tet McMillan as kind of my top 4 wide receivers. And then I have Terry McLaurin on the bench too. So I don't know. I mean, it's not like any of those other guys are really screaming confidence. Maybe Tet McMillan, right? But I guess in this format, like it's boom or bust and go home anyway. So I'm probably starting Justin Jefferson just because it's a large field tournament in this case. We have Justin Jefferson in our keeper league, right? And are we starting? Who do we have outside of him? I mean, we could put Devontae Adams in there. Then we got to flex someone like Stephon Diggs. Yeah, that's a good one. Are you putting Stephon Diggs over Justin Jefferson in the playoffs?
Oof, I would need to see the matchup. I mean, every time we've wanted to go to Diggs, it's like falling apart. He's been like 3 good games and now 2 horrible games. So it's just like, I guess if I'm taking the inconsistency of like a Stephon Diggs, I got to just take the inconsistency of Justin Jefferson, because under no circumstance do I think Diggs has like a 2 touchdown 100-yard game in him. But if JJ McCarthy can put the ball in the vicinity of Justin Jefferson, he still has that ability in him. So it's just, I guess it always comes down to like, who is the replacement? Like in that team that you were looking at, if it was the playoffs where I think the Bears had a better, I might move one of the other wide receivers in for Justin Jefferson and flex Monongai over Justin Jefferson. I mean, that sounds like some wild, like a guy that's in a committee, but just how much the Bears have leaned into this run game and won games, but with their run game, I don't know, man. Like if you're going to get some points. I feel like Monunga is going to get you on average the rest of the season more points per game than Justin Jefferson will, just based on like the volume and how much he gets goal line work, how much work he's getting compared to Justin Jefferson and what he's done with JJ McCarthy. Like it's hard to, disassociate from who Justin Jefferson is as a player, but he can't throw himself the ball. So if every route he runs, he breaks the coverage, and then JJ McCarthy doesn't see him or throws the ball 5 feet over his head or, throws a bad ball. It's like, oh man, it becomes such a difficult thing to do, right? But I feel like those are the type of moves that if you want to advance, you want to get in the playoffs, you just might have to do at this point in the season. But, and then you've benched Justin Jefferson and he scores 30 points and you look like an idiot. That's the other side of the coin. But how often has that happened, right? Like everything process-wise says that those guys, if you just take away the name and look at what they've done, look at all the statistics, I feel like they would all be screaming, bench this guy, right? Like if Justin Jefferson's name was, I don't know, the other guy, Stephon Diggs, right? You'd be like, yeah, I'm never starting Stephon Diggs in my lineup because it's just like impossible. Like, how can I keep putting this guy out there? But it's one of those, like, can you really get over it in your heart to do it? Right? Like it's an emotional decision, right? It's not rational, because if it was rational, all the stats say bench Lamar, bench Justin Jefferson, right? Like kind of like last season with Tyreek Hill, where it was like, am I really going to bench Tyreek Hill? And it's like, yeah, 9 times out of 10 or almost 10 out of 10 down the stretch last season, the answer was, yeah, bench Tyreek Hill. So I don't know, man. It sucks. It sucks that JJ McCarthy can't just be like somewhat competent. It sucks that they don't have a Jameis Winston or even a Marcus Mariota, who you mentioned, like just someone capable enough to get the ball enough times in the great players' hands.
You know who'd be really good in this offense? Sam Darnold.
I mean, man, he has looked horrendous, and they're winning games, which is wild. Like their defense and
so
special
good.
teams are crazy. I don't know, but like JSN had his first bad game, even when Darnold played badly. JSN had been fine, but man, JSN put up a stinker this last week. I'm not worried there, but man, Darnold has looked kind of like playoff Darnold a little early.
Yeah, it's not great, but I don't know. And he also kind of got banged up in that game. I don't know. He went into the tent, came back out. I mean, he played and returned to the game. Hey, man, for my Niners, I'm hoping that the trend continues here and that they continue to have a hard time getting things going. But that hurts my JSN stock, and I don't like that either. So if both can happen, I'd like for the Seahawks to lose and for JSN to win. Man, yeah, there's a lot of decline going on. I mean, we talked about Jay Jettas. How about the Colts and their struggles continuing? They are now not even in first place in their division. Houston has taken that title from them after beating them this past week here. Yeah, they haven't looked great. And Jonathan Taylor has been struggling too. We noted a while back when we were doing our schedule analysis for the upcoming one that the running backs did have a really tough schedule going forward. But we just weren't super concerned about it because JT has just been that guy. But at the same time, they just haven't been getting the offense going outside of what JT can do. It's not like he's been unplayable or super bad. It's just the touchdowns haven't been there to kind of buoy him into that RB1 status that we got used to seeing. Alec Pierce continues to produce wildly. And so one of Daniel Jones' favorite targets, I think I saw a stat something like over the last 6 games, Michael Pittman has 44 targets, and man, I'm blanking. Who? Oh man,
you're talking about Alec Pierce.
Alec Pierce, thank you.
Not sure where Pittman came into.
Well, yeah, they're comparing Alec Pierce to Pittman here, and Alec Pierce had 42 targets to Pittman's 44. It's just wild. I don't think anyone would have saw that coming into the season, but here we are, man. Yeah, I don't know. What's your takeaway on these Colts here?
Yeah, I think I was looking at some stats that was talking about how good the Colts were on like longer 3rd and 4th down distances to go, especially when Daniel Jones was under pressure. They were one of the top teams, and since I think week 8, from week 9 to 13, they've fallen not just average, but below average as a bad team. So I think that's kind of some of the weaknesses of Daniel Jones that they were hiding before, right? That we were like, oh, Daniel Jones, like it looks like a viable starting quarterback. I think maybe defensive coordinators are kind of catching on. And yeah, that's hurting JT because if you look at the games where he's been kind of that elite asset, it's been off touchdowns, obviously. But if the offense continues to struggle, I think JT just takes a small hit to the amount of touchdowns he might score any given week, right? I mean, he still has that 50-yard breakaway run any moment, but in terms of being around the goal line and just in terms of how many points they're putting up in general, it could be a little bit, put a damper on what you hope JT would be for you, especially going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you're not benching him, so it's you just continue to plug him in and hope for some regression here. I think if we look at their schedule going forward, they're playing the Jags and the Seahawks the next 2 weeks. So hopefully, if you have Jonathan Taylor, you got that first round bye because you definitely don't want to see him going against the Seahawks. That's a tough defense. And then they got the Niners in the semifinals and the Jags again in the championship week. It's not like the Jags are a pushover team either. They got a pretty good defense there. So yeah, these last 4 weeks of JT here, it could continue to be a struggle here. I think it's all going to hinge on if that offense can kind of regress back to where they've been the rest of the season here. And then how about Rico Dowdle, man? We're feeling real good about him taking that job and just running with it. And all of a sudden now, it feels like he's back in a timeshare. I don't know. What are you seeing there in that backfield?
Yeah, I mean he came out real hot right when Chuba got injured. His yards per carry, everything was amazing, and I think they were riding that hot hand, so to speak. And then the last couple weeks has just fallen real bad. Like his yards per carry, all the metrics say he's not been great. Chuba maybe is now more healthy than he was when he first came back, right? A few more weeks removed from his injury. He also seems to be the pass catcher. And they were kind of in a shootout with the Rams, so they didn't have a chance or a ton of opportunities to run the ball. I think Chuba was right behind Dowdle in carries too. I think Dowdle had 18 and Chuba had 17, but Chuba caught the ball and scored the touchdown through the air. So, if that's the case, I mean, Dowdle becomes a flex player maybe, and you hope maybe you get a little bit more clarity if you have a bye week in the next 2 weeks to really decide if in the semis you're going to start Rico Dowdle. You'll have a bit more information, and if you were counting on Rico Dowdle because he a waiver wire pickup, a guy you drafted late that was sitting at the end of your bench, and all of a sudden you thought you had diamond in the rough, I think you got to really temper those expectations and see. Are they going to really be able to get the ground game going? I think if they're not in the lead and they're not, just running people over, it's going to be a timeshare, and it's probably going to be Chuba, the guy that's catching the ball out of the backfield, that's going to get you more fantasy points. But I think it becomes a situation almost like Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears, where like, do you even want to start either of them unless it's a plus matchup or the Panthers seem to be a little bit better at offense, so maybe they're still flexible players, but it kind of just makes neither of them that attractive of a play.
Yeah, I mean, they have a pretty soft schedule here going forward, which is nice. We're looking at, are they on bye this upcoming week?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So then after that, they got the Saints in the wild card week, and then they got the Bucks in the semifinals, and then the Seahawks in the finals. So it's looking tough down the stretch for them. And then, yeah, I mean, Bryce Young has been looking pretty decent these past few weeks too. And I think that there's a little more trust in Bryce Young to kind of sling the ball. So they may not need to rely on their run game as much as they had in previous weeks. So yeah, it's not great either way. We have the stat here where Chuba outsnapped Rico Dowdle 38-27 in this past week. And that was the first time he's played more snaps than Dowdle since week 8. So, I mean, we don't want to overreact here. It's 1 week of data, and we've seen Rico Dowdle get the ball in the past. I think Rico even put his cryptic tweet out there, just like a shocked face, or maybe it was like the X out eyes of not knowing what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, and there was a little press conference, or like a one of those scrums of that there by the locker, and they asked him about it, and he said, "Yeah, like I talked to Dave Canales, and I told him like, hey, like we could have won that game if we ran the ball more." And I guess Dave Canales said, "Yeah, you're right." But apparently it wasn't to Rico that he was going to give the ball to. I don't know, man. I kind of just dislike it in all senses. Like, they have the bye week, so what's that going to look like out of the bye week? And then if you're in the first round of the playoffs, or can you start with any confidence? Rico Dowdle, like you said, you don't want to overreact, but you don't have the weeks to really make a wait and see, or make an astute, like you kind of have to just risk it and go for it. And it's like it's going to be a real tough decision if you got to start Rico Dowdle in your first round of the playoffs after they had a bye week.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about another backfield here who we thought we'd be getting more out of, but it hasn't really panned out that way. And that's the Denver Broncos backfield, where we thought we'd see a lot more RJ Harvey, but instead we saw a lot more of the baddie. RJ Harvey played 47% of Denver's offensive snaps on Sunday night. He had a 29% route share. In his only other game with J.K. Dobbins, he had a 61% snap share and a 48% route share. So definitely a decline from what we saw. But I mean, that's just kind of Sean Payton too. I feel like he has a game plan when he goes into these things, and he's just going to execute it how he thinks he can beat them. So again, not something we want to overreact going forward with, but it definitely doesn't make you feel as comfortable with RJ Harvey going forward here if you did have him as slotted in as a starter or a flex play for your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only saving grace, right, was the touchdown. So it looks like he's going to be the guy that they kind of maybe look to around the goal line. So, you can maybe count on that. But that offense also has been pretty inconsistent for, most of the year. So it's pretty difficult. If he's not getting the majority of the carries and the touches, it makes it a little bit scarier to start Harvey. I think, in terms of potential players you could be starting, you could do a lot worse. But the matchups will also kind of dictate who and when you should be maybe starting him. Like, I know, I think, right, they have Green Bay, what is it, in 2 weeks or in a week or so,
wild
right?
card week.
Wild card week. So that's, the first round of the playoffs. Are you going to start him versus the Packers? That's pretty difficult. Then they got the Jags, right? Which is another tough defense. So you're looking at some pretty rough matchups there. The good thing is, most likely, if you drafted Harvey and you held on to him for the whole time, you probably have other options, unless you've been hurt by injury. So maybe you have some other players to fall back on. But yeah, I mean, his entire fantasies week pretty much came from the 2 touchdowns. I mean, that was right about like 50 something percent of, or 60% of his points this week. So,
and it took overtime to get that second one, so you can't feel great about banking on 2 touchdowns every week. Yeah, I wish RJ Harvey was doing more here with this opportunity, but maybe in time it could still happen. Hey, it could happen.
Hey, so you're telling me there's a chance. Insert that meme here. There was one thing I wanted to ask you, man. Who, little NFL tangentially fantasy, but who's your MVP right now for the NFL season?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, the favorites right now are what, Stafford and Maye. We've been talking about Stafford for so long here, and thinking that he was going to be the favorite, and then he kind of came out last week and didn't really show up. What did he throw? 2 picks, I think. And yeah, Maye came out, and he didn't dominate fantasy wise, but he definitely controlled that game and took the win from the New York Giants and just commanded that team to the 1 seed in the AFC now, which is wild. So yeah, man, as crazy as it sounds, it's got to be Maye, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the wrong month of the year, but yeah, I definitely think it is Drake May here. It's kind of one of those MVP awards where if it wasn't the most valuable quarterback or the best quarterback on the team with the most wins, it really should be Myles Garrett. I mean, he might obliterate the sack record. He might pass it by 2, 3 sacks. And it really, even though the Browns are horrible, he's the most, I mean, he's the best player in the NFL, I think. But yeah, I mean, Drake May just did enough to kind of just keep himself there. Like none of these guys, like Stafford has been playing really well, but it also hasn't been like a Lamar Jackson or, one of these Mahomes type of seasons where you're like, yeah, that guy's clearly head and shoulders above every other quarterback. He's putting up a historic season. They're just doing good. Like they're doing pretty good, right? Like Drake May, the fact that it's only his second year is pretty much kind of, I think, tips it for me in terms of just the how young he is into his career, and he's already playing this well. We did a whole episode about that in terms of how we feel about Drake May and the Patriots. But yeah, I think for me it would be Drake May. I think coming down the stretch here, if they finish out as the number 1 seed and finish with 13, 14 wins, which wouldn't be too crazy based on their schedule, he probably wins it. I think if Stafford is able to kind of play how he played a few weeks ago, he could maybe edge Drake May out, and they could still, I think, get the number 1 seed in the NFC. I mean, the NFC is kind of completely wide open. There's not a single team with double-digit wins, and there's the Bears and the Rams and Seahawks, Niners all have 9 wins. So, if they kind of go on a run here and as they were doing, that was interrupted by the Panthers beating them, I could see it being Stafford as well. But I mean, you always kind of trust the odds makers on this, and it's pretty heavy in May's favorite to be the favorite here.
Yeah. I'm sad that I missed that joke, it's gonna be May. would have been perfect. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I like May for the MVP here. I think it just makes sense. It's also kind of just a great storyline for the NFL in general. Have this new young face taking stance or taking the place of kind of these older guys who have struggled this year. Yeah, man, where's Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson have just disappeared, and Mahomes has been great, but the Chiefs have not. So it's we're in a renaissance here, and I think May is really stepping up to the plate here. So with that, man, do you got anything else you want to talk about here, or should we just roll into the outro?
Yeah, man, let's get on out of here.
Another one, the Week 13 debrief in the books. We got episode 20 coming up for you guys here. I think we're going to get that out Friday morning, so you guys can look forward to that. And it's go time. We are in the final week of the regular season. Playoffs start next week, and hopefully you guys are locking up those 1 seeds and looking forward to the playoffs. I know I am. And as always, I'm looking forward to hanging out with Jose, because this is too much fun.
Yeah, man, as always, thank you everybody that's out there listening. Like, subscribe, comment on the YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we'll see you all Friday. Peace.
Friday. Have a good week. 14. Go get those dubs.